Thanks, Tom. Thank you so much. Hey, it's a SIG release, Monday 26th meeting. I mean, our I know there are a few agenda items. We will go through this. I think just want to reiterate for the R4 release from the SIG release perspective. Our main thing is to start the document for the release process and then automate it as much as possible. Do we know when Liam is going to be back? Any of you? No?
Back tomorrow.
Tomorrow? Okay, good. Thank you. Good, thank you. So probably I think once Liam is back, probably we'll get together and we'll start the doc and then we'll try to automate the process. With that said, there are a few items here. Fiacre, did you add them? Please go ahead if so.
Yeah, I did. I was hoping Rado would be able to join for the first one and the second one really. And the last one is just a revisit on potentially how we test the Nephew controllers and care and functions as part of some kind of integration testing, if at all possible. But for the first one, I don't want to bore people, so if there's other more important things, but it's something I touched on previously in relation to the porch project structure.
Okay.
In especially in relation to how we use the dependencies. So porch API and the controllers module, and also I'm calling it base porch, but the overall porch project is also being imported in the Nephew repo. And with that, Vim, correct me, or I rely on some Golang knowledgeable people here. But we were using what's known as replace directives in the Gomod files, which was essentially breaking the import in Nephew, in the Nephew controllers import in particular. So with that, I pinned the versions. But what we discovered yesterday is that, so we have a kind of I don't know the correct term, but kind of a chicken and egg scenario where if changes are made to the API module, they can only be used once it's been published or released. Not really, but yeah, merged, if you like, to main.
Or if you're doing a dev build, you can use a go.work file, right?
Yeah, so we looked at the work file. Catherine's on the call here, so Catherine is the one struggling with this. But yeah, so we looked at the work file, and that would probably suit the needs of a local dev and testing changes to the API, absolutely, which is probably the way we should go. But in relation to actually, I guess we don't have to do a release of the API. But I know Go relies on this tagging system, right?
Well, yeah, but I'll add that, for a CI, CD, or testing system, you could potentially create go.work on the fly, if you want to test like a latest version or something. That's fairly common practice. I do it at least.
Okay.
So it does have other uses, right? So, but, as soon as you create a Go work file, you're not testing the actual thing that was officially released, but that's probably what you want to do during a test build, right?
So how do you propose to say on the third link, if you go back there, Bala, for 1 second, please.
Yeah.
On the Nephew controllers link, right? So here we import all 3 porch modules, right? And so I grabbed John's attention for very briefly, but his reckoning is that a client or a consumer should only be importing the API module and maybe some utils from Porch, not all 3 modules. So this is what caused the initial. So originally this was pointing to the kept project the modules, right? But so when I tried to update, when I tried to repoint these to the Porch repo, I think it was the controllers one that broke because it was using replace directives of a a
Yeah,
local version,
that
if you
makes
like.
sense. Yeah, and
So
what John says makes sense too. So it's probably worth thinking about what is necessary in the other two packages and moving them into API, right?
yeah,
There
yeah.
could be, we can even go a step further and not make those public,
Go ahead.
so
Sorry.
not import them, right?
Don't know, are people hearing Tal?
Oh, can you not hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
I could
Yeah.
hear.
Oh,
So,
maybe
Fiat, can you hear us?
I can hear everybody, but I think Fikra couldn't hear me.
Yeah, let me.
Oh, okay. Fikra? Wow. I'll continue the thought for other people here that yeah, it's possible to not make
So
that code public and import.
uh, before that, actually, Tal, if you don't mind, can you help us understand the problem? At least I did not understand the problem.
Okay, yeah. So it's an issue having to do. So here's the thing: if you have a require here for a specific module, right? So let's take the third line, porch controllers.
Yeah.
Right. So the way Go works, it loads the go.mod file of that package, right, and looks at its requirements. But the problem is that if that package has replace directives, the replace directives kind of are global, right? At the end of the day, if you have you have this tree, but the tree has to get resolved, right? If you have multiple modules and they all require Kubernetes, you'll choose the highest level of Kubernetes, right?
Yeah.
Even if different packages were built against different Kubernetes APIs, right? And Go has kind of a heuristic to pick kind of the best version. It's not actually always the highest version. It tries to be smart, but sometimes, of course, things just won't work because it's just the nature of things. People build different libraries versus different versions of things. But we really mess things up when we use those replace directives because they ruin that whole heuristic. They kind of cut through it and say, use this specific version. And yeah, that's what caused breakages in builds because we have like conflicts.
Apologies, my connection dropped there, so I missed most of that, Tal. Apologies.
So Fikra, all I was doing
yeah.
was kind of explaining why this is a problem.
Yeah,
with,
So yeah, looking at Google, yeah. So replace directives shouldn't be used in production code. It's not really production code, but you know what I mean. But I see, yeah. So Talis or Vim is saying that so the controllers, so the APIs for the controllers are embedded within the controllers tree. Okay. Yeah, I guess what I'm looking for is just what's the easiest solution here really. I guess
Yeah.
for Nefio for this project, I think as chatting to John, there probably needs to be. I looked through what it's using. It seems to be using parts of the internal kept stuff within Porch and other bits and pieces. So there probably would need to be some kind of minor surgery within the Nefio controllers and the KRM functions to clean up to sort those dependencies out and maybe move stuff into the API module in Porch. The controller stuff I'm not too sure on because say the Porch controllers imports both the API module and the overall base Porch, if you like, so line 24. Do you know what I mean?
So my 2 cents here, yeah, we absolutely need to get rid of replace and put it in code go.work. And if we need it for building with create a special build environment, but otherwise refactoring the API to avoid that kind of triple imports here requires. That's the kind of refactoring that I think we should decide what we want to do with Porch in the future. I mean, if you want to tackle self-seeker, I think, nobody will stop you from doing that. But I wonder if your work would be better put elsewhere on stuff that would be more meaningful. Sorry to put it
Yeah,
that way, but yeah,
yeah, no, absolutely.
yeah.
But say, I think there is, so I think Catalan's still in the call, I hope, and I think ISTI also is looking to make changes to the API, right? And as part of the porch cleanup, in quotes, there will be changes to the API also. So in that scenario, yeah, I guess it's like consuming any third party dependency, right? You can't use the new version until it's been merged or published or whatever you want to call it. Do you know what I mean? So in that scenario, you would have to make the changes to the API. Yes, potentially use a local work file to test your changes, merge the change to the API, and then update your required dependency, right? That it's a bit of a two-step process, right? Which is,
Yeah, and
I guess,
there's some pitfalls there. Like if you forget to say comment out your go.work file replaces and you do a git push or to your PR, you might have pushed something broken, right? So
yeah,
it's important to kind of, yeah, unfortunately, actually, if you go to like, the Golang GitHub and see issues open, there are so many issues opened about go.work.
okay,
Not everybody is happy with how it was designed because it just has a lot of edge cases that don't work well. And it can create
okay,
exactly that problem where you think everything is fine, but I forgot I have a local go.work file. And actually I was testing something entirely different than what's actually on GitHub, right?
mm,
Yeah.
okay, okay, um, okay.
Yeah, go.work is very dangerous.
Is it okay? So
It's an
that's why we went with
it's a necessary tool, but it's very dangerous in
okay.
my view.
And so in that I'm not I'm it's not circular dependency isn't the correct term, but how do you what's causing the issue there, Vim? It's the controller's import, right? Is the one that's I think
Yeah,
that's
so
what was broke. Yeah.
So
Okay.
my practice is always, what I try to do with the project is always I create APIs directory, and in
Yeah.
there I put
All
in the
yeah.
APIs, but also all the utilities related to the APIs, because that's
Yeah.
what people typically use
Yeah.
outside of the project. And then you have all your other stuff that you need that I put somewhere else. But so in other words, you could actually split APIs from your main code if you will.
Yeah.
You could actually
Yeah.
put it in two separate repos, but that you don't have to do that. But that's how I typically try to structure stuff.
Yeah.
But still, you still have the issue that you then have to develop your APIs, and then only when they are done you can do the other stuff, right? So you still
Yeah.
have that dual step.
Yeah. Yeah. I
And
guess
we have
that's
that in FEO as well, right? In FEO we have APIs in a separate repo,
yeah.
so we always had to get the APIs branch in it. So, but we also struggled a little bit at the time. So we use GoWord, but I think it's a bit of a slippery slope. Like Tal was explaining, it's basically overriding stuff that you don't want potentially to happen in production.
So actually, you can go even farther and say, well, there's certain stuff that's internal and should never be exported outside of the package, right? It's not meant
Correct.
for internal use. And Go has facilities for hiding that. I think if you call a package by internal or intern.
Yeah. If you just the file, the name internal is enough. So everything behind internal is hidden. You cannot export.
So it can't be imported outside. So that kind of won't let these issues ever happen. Yeah.
Okay, where did I? Yeah, for this project, I'm pretty sure the vast majority of it is kind of kept filey stuff. I know, so
Yes.
obviously it's using the package variant controller, package variant set controller, all right, definitely, and parts of that. There's some port utility stuff, but there's a lot of it's around the kept file API and stuff like that. So, yeah, I agree, Tal. I would spend way too much time trying to fix this, but so do we then? Make
Well-
it make it a two-step process for making changes to the API, to Porch API.
Well, I wonder if the kept machinery should be a service exported by Porch, right? Because controllers might want to use that, right? It is probably meant to be exported. I guess the first two lines here aren't the problematic one. It's the third one, right? That's the big trouble.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
Because
that part,
the third one imports the other two.
yeah, and that's kind of the internals of Porch that you shouldn't need to wait a second, I'm looking around. Okay, this is the Nefio controllers package, and it's importing the Porch controllers package.
Mhm.
Okay, yeah, yeah, I think there's some sort of the division of code there. I think that's a problematic part. You have some controllers importing code from other controllers, right?
Yeah, it's trying to get at the
Yeah.
controller's API, right?
It might be best to have like a third, controller utils package that both of those controllers import or something like that. I'm not really sure. But yeah, again, like solving this in a nice way might be just too much work for us right now. So
Yeah. Okay, we'll I think maybe we'll go with some form of. So what I was chatting to Rado in terms of possibly setting up maybe some kind of GitHub action, um, to release the API separate from on a separate cadence from the Porch. I think all we released there is Porch CTL really. Um, but yeah, I think that probably could be done.
So just to ask, in an ideal world, how this project would be structured? Just wanted to understand that. So would typically in an ideal world, do you think a module or a package should expose APIs and the external entities should only deal with those APIs? Is that a fair statement?
I think looking at what the code here is using from within the Porch repo as a whole, it looks like the vast majority of it is in the Porch API, but you would need to export some utility methods or utility parts as well, as Tao was saying, or as was mentioned before.
Yeah, basically what I'm saying was, should anything, let's say I'm writing a module or a package. I'm just trying to understand the best practices in the Golang, because I'm keep hearing different things. So in any other language, for example, an object-oriented language is kind of very easy, you define an interface and that's it. And everybody wants to use that, you make use of that interface. So in Golang, do you still think if I were to write a module, do you think I define a API layer and anything that needs to be used, I should define it in API? For example, let's say a utility needs to be exposed, then obviously augment the API with that utility signature. So do you think it is the best practice or is this not idiomatic Go? That's what I'm trying to understand.
I don't know, for this there is a best practice in my view. I don't know, but that's what the structure is what I tend to do to avoid all these import cycles. Because in my view, the utility belongs to an API, but I don't think I have ever found a structure or a best practice that said do it this way. That's what I ended up doing from experience.
Okay.
But that's my 2 cents. But I don't think there is like a best practice whatsoever.
yeah, there's a common pattern of, the one I expressed, that if you have shared code, then put it in a separate kind of utils package.
Yeah.
But the problem with maybe specific to Go here is that there's a difference between a repo and modules. modules in Go have they are entirely independent, right? So if you look at the list here, you have a lot of different modules, and many of them are in the same Git repo, but that doesn't matter. That's just a coincidence, right? So you could potentially organize two different Git repos that import packages from each other, and it's not circular if they are independent from each other, right? So a better organization is to make sure that, the repos have kind of a larger relationship, but it's not always possible. I have projects where I do have this kind of crisscross between them, and sometimes it just makes the most sense. So Go is very flexible and gives you enough rope to hang yourself if you end up that
I
way.
think that's the problem. Yeah.
Like in Java would never let you do this because it has this whole class loader thing and trees and different universe entirely.
Yeah.
So, would it make sense not to jump into any of these new Golang features, unless and until, wait for a couple of releases before it becomes stable and then adopt them?
Yeah, well, we're not doing anything new here. We're just trying to solve like a problem. These are very basic features in Go, but the new feature, relatively new, a year old or 2 years old, is the go.work file, which just makes life easier for developers, because instead of putting these replace files and committing them to the repo, which has caused us a lot of trouble, we can remove those. So this new feature just will make it solve half of the problem, but the other half is that kind of internal dependency, which I guess we're suggesting let's try to find a quick solution rather than like a complete refactoring of the whole API. So I think that might require Fikra to look a little bit deeper, or somebody else, not just Fikra, to see what exactly is imported from line 26 here. And maybe we can just it might not be a lot of code, so we can just even copy and paste it somewhere else. There just might be an easy solution to this particular problem.
Yeah, I did start just poking around to see exactly what's been used in, say, in the Nephio's project. I'd be fairly sure this is the only project that's importing from Porch. Well, I can't be certain, but yeah, that's not true actually. I have no idea who's importing Porch, but that's But I think for as a short term, say if there are changes to the API, unfortunately we will have to, for the dev working with us, we'll have to possibly use a work file and commit the changes to the API in advance of making dependent changes. Is that the right word? No.
Yeah, but I think that's totally acceptable, because if you're working with multiple Git repositories, you can only do a PR for one repository at a time and merged one at a time. So this is just true for any kind of work in any language that you're working out with multiple repos, right? So I think Go gives you a facility to at least do that development locally, and then submit two PRs that you've tested locally that those two PRs work, so they can be merged upstream to the two repos, right?
Yeah.
All right, thanks guys. I might pester you again for Golang expertise. But,
Yeah, I'll be happy to help with this. Sorry, I wasn't aware of exactly what the issue was until now.
So what is the action item for this one? If I can write it, is there any action item at all for now?
I will investigate exactly what's being consumed on the Nephio repo, and how difficult that would be to break that dependency, and also maybe I know Catalan has a PR for making changes to the API, the Porch API, and I think there will be more sooner. So probably will have to document some process around that.
Okay. So I mean, did we figure this out as a part of breaking out sports into repos? Yeah.
No. So how do you mean? How did this arise?
Yes, basically, I'm just thinking maybe it's just coincidental because in the last SIG automation meeting, we discussed about breaking out Porch into, for example, that what is that fleet, breaking out Porch fleet into.
Oh, well, that's sorry, that's part of, so the controllers, sorry, that's an old controllers module, or part of the controllers module in Porch needs to move into its own.
Yeah,
It's not being used. Yeah, it's no separate issue really. Yeah.
okay, separate issue. This is
Yeah.
not raised because of doing that work or anything like.
No. This arose when I tried to repoint the Nefio controllers dependency to our Porch version.
So this may have some repercussions for the release processes as well, or theater, or does it have any? Do we need to?
Maybe I brought it here because I was looking.
No,
Yeah,
not
no,
this.
it's no, no,
That's a
no,
gen.
no major impact. No major impact that can't be remedied fairly easily, I'd say.
Okay. So
Yeah.
basically it's more of how we want to tackle these dependencies, but this not necessarily result in any release specific processes, right?
Um, there could be. I was chatting to Rado in relation to releasing the Porch API as a separate, uh, as a standalone module, as a released artifact in Porch, if you like.
Okay. Okay, that's separate work if you want to do that.
Yeah, it's not. It should be able to be done with a GitHub action, I'm hoping, of some description.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So does that cover all the three that we discussed, right? Okay.
Yeah. No, they were just links to where the imports are happening. Yeah,
Okay. So I don't know who put these two items, how to trigger sandbox deploy on catalog report.
Just boat me again. Sorry, no, but yeah,
Okay, good.
yeah.
Yeah, please go ahead.
So I think this came up before when Victor was having a look at it. But changes to packages in the catalog repo to trigger at least the sandbox deploy with the new package. I think we probably do. It'd be nice. It's a nice to have. But say with the item that we discussed last week, I kind of made a start on it with upgrading some of the packages, things like config sync config sync, Capi, Multus, whatever, to have those deployed in a sandbox environment as part of a PR push.
Yeah, that's a great point, Priyankara, because I was thinking about that, right? If we actually made any changes to catalog, there is no feedback unless we go look at the periodic jobs, right? We have to look at the daily periodic job.
Mhm.
Is the only alternative at this point of time for us? Any of us
Yeah,
that makes
but
change?
that only pulls from main, and maybe one of the V3 or whatever. So it doesn't. It only pulls on main, so it would have to be, you would only get feedback on PR merge.
So one of the things for multis that you pushed, which is
Yeah,
merged, I guess. So will it not
yeah,
show up in the periodic
it
job?
will. Yeah, well, on merge. Yeah. But
Oh, yeah. So we want to
my
go the
feeling.
shift left. Basically, we want to get immediate feedback.
Yeah, ideally, well,
Yeah.
as in a lightweight, as I know what the sandbox takes about 10 minutes on a, I don't know what size the VM is, but
Correct.
potentially you could run this in as a GitHub action. I know that the GitHub runners they're free, and I can't remember I think they're 2 CPU, 8 gig RAM maybe or something. I can't. I was playing around with them before, but I think you can probably deploy the sandbox on them.
So
It
how
might
would
take a bit.
are we expecting the test to be run inside of the catalog repo, or are we expecting this to be run in? This is what I was thinking the other day, last Thursday. I was like searching to see how can you trigger a pro job in test infra if a change is made in catalog repo. I don't know if it can be done. Seems like maybe not.
No, I think there are Brada's not here now, but I think there are mechanisms within Pro. I think it's Crier or something. There's just some webhook mechanism that probably could be used in Pro. But again, Pro works, does the job. But my feeling is that if this could be done as a GitHub action, I would
Okay,
err
yeah.
towards
GitHub
that.
action is fine too, either whether Pro or GitHub action, either of them.
Yeah.
So I think ideally you're saying that for your PR that you push in for a catalog, you want to be able to know at the end of the PR push, as part of the running the tests, did it cause any issues, or was it able to successfully deploy the management components? Was it successfully installed, right? At least.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly. Like in a like we can't in theory. Okay, I'm having a look at reducing the timings on the end to end, but I think at the very least, make sure that the component deploys on the management cluster. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whether it's functional or not will show up in the end to end.
Correct. At
But
least we know, actually,
yeah,
Daniel and I pushed a PR for the kubeadmin cluster where it only installs in a few management components. So maybe we can look into seeing how that can be leveraged. But I think the key issue is how do we kick it off in the catalog repo, basically.
yeah, you could divide, like I'm pretty sure with GitHub Actions you could clone the test info repo onto the runner, and point the sandbox in it to use the
I see. Okay.
PR. Could you
The catalog repo. Okay.
Yeah, the catalog PR. I'm pretty sure you could. Yeah. But
Okay, cool.
I don't know what I was hoping Rado would hear. But yeah, whether it's preferable to use that or whether we should be using the Pro setup, because potentially if we could use the Pro setup, then that would we could hook something into the last bullet there for testing the Nephew controllers and the kernel functions. Nephew controllers, more importantly.
Thanks.
Same scenario. We don't really get feedback until merge and build.
Because somebody has to wait for the periodic. Yeah, I know it's too late. Yeah, I see the point.
So Fiacre, in this thing, you're not talking about new package, right? Somebody's not creating a new package. So you're essentially saying, for example, there is that say the free 5GC package or a CAPI cluster package that we have that's updated in the catalog repo. I just want to understand, I just want to make sure that my understanding is correct. So you make some changes to an existing package that is already used in end-to-end deployment. And then once that package is changed, you want to make sure that package works well with the end-to-end deployment. Is that
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and obviously I paste. I think I added you on some of the PRs, but yeah. So say like so for that one there, we're updating the copy package, right? So that link in the chat. But so with that, yeah, we yeah. I'm just testing. I'm just testing that copy comes up, or that would be at the very least, I think should be. Or is this necessary? I don't know. I'm looking for feedback as well. Like, is it if there isn't a major, like if it's a minor, if we were just bumping a version or whatever, I don't know. Like,
I think it is necessary if you I think.
It's a good to have. Definitely. That kind of a resume is really definitely good. But yeah, I mean, for an existing package that's already used in the deployment. So would this the other thing is this: if the package is defined, that is also needs to be okay. We are saying that when a package is changed for any reason, that will be the one that is being used, right? For example, if we use a new package, changes to the CAPI package, we'll obviously use that for our end-to-end deployment going forward. We will not use anything older. That's the premise, right? If that is the premise, then yes, it makes total sense.
Yeah, I don't quite the premise for so say in this scenario here, right? So I'm looking to upgrade some of the packages in the catalog in the base in the mostly around the base and sandbox installation, right? So that's the Nepio core and some parts of Nepio optional, whatever, blah blah blah. It's stuff that's deployed in the sandbox environment. So yeah, if we had a job that would essentially spin up the sandbox using that new package. That's all, in a nutshell. You could come into scenarios where there would be changes required in the test infra repo also, would there? Sorry, I'm trying to think. No, if it's core, if it's just Nepio sandbox, we should be able to use the test infra scripts as is. I think.
Yeah, definitely. I think there is value in this. What they're proposing. So we have to figure out on the how part, right? How we can do this. So you're suggesting GitHub Actions or Pro would be two ways to do it. Probably. I would let you and Rado decide between those two things. What is the best?
I think you probably could hook into. I'm pretty sure you could hook into Prio to trigger the test infra jobs. But that for me that would be I wouldn't be looking to wait an hour and a half for a change to the catalog repo. Okay, it's an hour and a half as it stands to to do that full end to end. Ideally you would get okay, if it takes 10-12 minutes to deploy the sandbox, do you know what I mean? I think that's more than enough time to be waiting for feedback on a package change. So for me, just deploy the sandbox. So it would be a different Prio job rather. Just it would only run the init, the sandbox init.
Okay, only when you say
And
sandbox, don't.
Yeah, and maybe check the health, check the health sometime. Or you get a health report, right, don't you, after the sandbox deploy. So yeah.
Okay, just curious. For example, you changed the package to a network function, right? So then we need to wait for the network function to be deployed, right?
Say again, Bala, in terms
So
of the
you change a project, you change a package to a network function, for example.
yeah, but see, I don't. So for the sandbox install, it's just the core components. Yeah, I see what you mean. Okay, yeah, but this would only cover what's deployed in the sandbox installation setup.
So we are trying to differentiate between Nepio management components versus the workload components, correct?
Yeah, so I don't, if you wanted to test the change to FreeFileGC package or OAI package, then you would have to deploy, or you would have to run the end-to-end, right?
Yeah. I think if you're able to detect which directory some of this goes in, and we can always do whether end-to-end is required or just the management components. And then we can use a combination of the periodic job, at least, yeah, maybe as a iterative approach, trying to do for the management components would be good, and then extend it later.
Yeah, I know Victor had some ideas around this prior to him stepping back, but I think
yeah, I think so. I think he was talking about this. I think this kind of optimization is still valid because if most of the check-ins are to the management cluster, we would be saving a lot of time. Yeah, I think only for the NF related functions, which is like at this point of time now, like we are not introducing anything new, at least for now. We can save a lot of time.
Yeah, I think overall that the whole repo's
Yeah.
been fairly static, other than there was a flurry of
Yeah.
activity around the release process last time, but that wasn't really related to, you know, upgrading any components. But yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I think I like that. Even the differentiation kind of optimization, by differentiation, using the 80-20 rule. If the 80% of the time you're doing most of the things in the management cluster, then you can save a lot of time. Then let's take it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, cool. Thanks, Fiagra, for that. And I believe the final one is also done by you.
It is. Sorry, guys. If anyone has a, yeah.
No, please
Again,
go ahead.
it's
I actually want to thank you for filling the agenda. Please go ahead. Yeah.
well, it kind of ties into a similar scenario where, you know, changes to the Nephew controllers, which I'm kind of looking at tweaking a little bit at the moment around the approval controller, doesn't really get tested until it doesn't get integrated. There's no integration testing until it reaches the test infra end to end, you know. And I know we touched on this before. I had a look at the GitHub Actions and setting up, you know, or using ephemeral runners in Google Cloud and stuff like that. You know what I mean? To basically run the Nephew controllers through the sandbox install actually, and make sure that they're healthy. So similar enough scenario. Actually, no, that come to mind. Yeah. So I couldn't use the free GitHub runners for the sandbox installation. Okay, I digress. But yeah, it's a similar scenario. Like, what's the best way to get a quick turnaround on the Nephew controllers? Maybe the CARAM functions, we can take them separately, but yeah, the Nephew controllers themselves. Similar feeling on my part, in that you don't actually guess. Yeah, maybe we can scrap that last bullet. Sorry, just yeah, it's something. It's a little bit of a bugbear of mine, but it's an extra nice to have, if we could in any way.
Okay, but I still believe the point is valid, right? The revisit, and one of the things we wanted to do was, use Kubernetes native techniques to do the testing. I think Rado or Victor proposed something. I remember.
Is it Cuddle? KUTTL Cuddle? That's what I remember.
I'm not sure which nothing is coming to my mind, but they propose something. Probably Rado will remember for sure. Wish probably we can ask him. He's back.
Okay. No, I know there was something about Cuddle that was proposed by Victor. It is on my list of things to actually look at it, but there is so many things else to look at too. Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
Yeah, I think. But in general, yes, we all agree. Like our testing framework needs an upgrade. It is we could use with a first class test framework. If you have enough members in the community wants to step up and do that, that's really good. Our testing can definitely be improved. That's an area. I think Rado was thinking of doing something, but I'll let him speak to it when he comes next.
Yeah, I'm not a test guru in any way, sure, but I think, but in terms of integration testing, regression testing, there's a piece missing there for the Nephew controllers.
Yeah.
For me, the end to end is fine, but it's kind of big bang testing. You know what I mean? I don't. There could be a subset that we could even deploy us in a standalone kind cluster or something. I don't know. Do you know what I mean? Just to make sure that everything comes up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that probably let's revisit this topic next week again when Rada is back because I know he was proposing something. So let's do that.
Sure, thanks, guys. Thank you.
Well, thanks, Pietro. Very nice discussions today. And anything else in the forum here? Talvin, Wish. I don't know who are all the participants. Let me open the participants list. That line we have obviously Timo, Vardhan.
I think we covered a lot of ground today.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. By the
We
way,
are done 8 minutes early.
Gargly has put a documentation for the contribution to the docs also very much in line with what Rado did. So let's go.
Did we, quick question, did we ever go back on we had plans around some form of template for new issues slash PR where we would have some, you know, or not prerequisites, but, you know, required. So, you know, say for instance, with a code change, documentation required, you know, etc. Did we get some? I know Simon gave a demo a good while back now. Did we ever go back to that?
Oh, that's a good point, actually.
Was that SIG release? Maybe I'm in the wrong.
I don't know which forum, but anyway, let's discuss that. We wanted to incorporate that. I think,
Yeah, say for instance, like I made some changes recently, which will require potentially documentation updates. But because the documentation now lives on its own, I have to remind myself that I have to update documentation. That's very
Yeah.
lazy, isn't it? Relying on GitHub to remind me that I have to do documentation. But you know what I mean, in terms of having a template, I think we did have some
Yeah, I think
hooking it
Simon
hooking it
mentioned
into
this.
hooking it into Pro or something, wasn't it? We could hook it into Pro and make Pro block a merge or block something with it if it's missing X, you know, or so I can't remember. There was something along those lines.
Yeah, I think he proposed something. He also mentioned it's free. We can use it. Kubematic, right? Kubermatic or Kubematic, yeah.
Mm.
Yeah, I think let's see whether we how we want if at all we want to incorporate that. I think general consensus was in that meeting it's a good idea to do it. Yeah, let's talk about this. Maybe was it a pro module or was it a GitHub action? Do you remember?
No, it was Pro. I'm pretty sure they were
Okay.
somebody else. I think a few other people were on that call,
Okay.
but yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Pro.
Okay.
Because they were managing the gates via Pro. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm yeah.
So do you think it is in general, is that going to be helpful? Or do you think people will find it a bit of bitter mind? What do you think? In general, I mean, obviously it's good. It's going to remind people about the dependencies across your repos. Dependencies on the work spread across your repos, if I want to phrase it correctly.
I think it's useful for even for tracking, like, because say I'm pretty sure the test infra repo has a template associated. I know that's just a flat template, if you like. But having something similar for the other ones, say Porch and FO or whatever, or even catalog, to say that, you know, is documentation required, you know, and you check the box or whatever, and then the Pro. Yeah, sorry, I'm talking too much. I think it would be useful just as a
Okay.
tool.
All right. Yeah, let's definitely discuss that. And this. Okay, next meeting. Cool. Thanks, Vector. So anything else, guys? Not, I'll stop sharing. And then probably can give you back a couple of minutes before we had to go to the next meeting. Have a good